Hail, fellows, and welcome to Pen Night Radio, where we slay our personal demons and arm ourselves to write our best content. I am your host, PK, unofficially knighted by a fictional character, which means you do not have to call me sir. I have some very important things on the horizon. One True Promotion is working on building up, and I can't quite say just yet how we are planning to build up, but I can tell you it is going to be awesome. So, for this week's show, I want to talk to you about something very, very important. You see, there's a lot of writers in the world. There's a lot of, as you can tell, I have no script tonight because I just said there's a lot of writers in the world. Thank you, PK, for telling us something that we never knew. And we'll see you next week. No, there are a lot of authors who are active in the indie community right now. We have traditional publishing, we have hybrid publishing, but we also have self-publishing. And in the world of self-publishing, there's a lot of people who are using social media, especially as their primary tool to get the word out and to build community with other artists. Now, I would like to encourage you, if you're new to this, especially if you're new to this, that there's a very important thing you could be doing to build upon your brand, and that is live reading your work. Let's dive into why we're here. Let's take our pens and slay the personal demons that are holding us back today. And then we write. Pen Night Radio is brought to you by One True Promotion, an alliance of authors that are dedicated to promoting you, the everyday author, a member of the indie community, and pretty much any creative who is trying to make their voice heard. Live Readings is a show I used to have all on its own here at One True Promotion. I used to do Drop a Line, which was our interview show. We do that sometimes here on Pen Night Radio still. But I also had Live Readings, which was on a different night of the week. I would just go live and start live reading Barker's Rules, which at the time was one of my only 2 published novels. And I actually got through half the novel before I stopped. I guess I was concerned that people would not want to read it because they could just tune in every week and get it for free. But and people were writing in saying that going through the book linearly was actually, making it hard for them to keep up week by week, because if they missed a week, they missed a chapter. It was the whole thing. But what Live Readings became was a spot for other authors to come and share their work. A whole bunch of authors used to come out, and we did these huge live reading events where one author would join, and then the next author would join, and then the next author would join. And let me tell you, it was magic. It was magic when we did our super big live reading events. We ran for 2 hours. I had poets, I had, novelists, I had short fiction writers, I had writers who weren't even published yet. We had Liz come out and play some music one year live on camera. I mean, it was just fantastic. It was a fantastic way to highlight people. It was a great way to, juice up the shows a little bit with more content than just written word and advertising. And it was real magic. It got harder and harder to put together as we moved past lockdown and less people were just sitting at home all the time. We went strong for those first couple of years, but after that, I could get maybe 2 or 3 people to do a live reading special event. And, it ended up being just a little too taxing. I've combined everything that we used to do: the Drop a Line show, the live reading show, I had another one called Title in Progress, which was just random publishing facts. Carrie came up with that one. It was a great title. It was just wasn't a good, the premise was all wrong because it was arguing that I would be able to come at you with a new interesting fact once a week. And at that time in my life, when I was going into graduate school and I had 4 classes at a time, I just wasn't prepared to maintain that. But anyway, what am I saying? I used to do a lot of shows. I used to do a lot of different shows here at One True Promotion because I thought, hey, I got nothing but time, so let me do a lot of different programming. I'm the programming guy. Well, I have one show now, Pen Night Radio. And Pen Night Radio has a lot of special segments we do. Sometimes we do a little interview for Drop a Line. Sometimes we do interesting facts from the publishing world. Sometimes we just do plain Q&A. I must encourage you to go to the Facebook pages. Go to the Facebook pages for Pen Night Radio and also the Calipar Fans, which are my 2 public Facebook accounts. Go to the YouTube channel for One True Promotion, post a question. If we see it posted, we will answer it live on the show. The more questions come in, the more we can engage with you for an entire segment of the show. So, if you're curious about something, just write it down and send it to me, and I will be happy to address that live. It really does add a lot to the show when people ask a question. Also, all of these shows used to be live, and now we pre-record Penn Night Radio, of course, which is why it's a little harder to come by questions. But like I said, you can send them in, you can mail them in when you hear what the topic is going to be. Ask a question in advance, and you can hear it addressed that very Saturday after recording. So, okay, live reading. Point being, live reading is coming to Penn Night Radio. Woo! Isn't that exciting? Okay, that is literally not what this segment is about. I wanted to give you some news, but the real thing I want to get into is actually way different. It is, why should you live read your work? Okay, listen. Live reading and any kind of public speaking can be really scary. You talk to some people, and going live is the last thing that they want to do. Some people won't go live at all. Some people will only go live if their friends are on with them. Some people will only go live if they don't have to say a whole lot, or if they can just answer questions that they already know the answers to. The point being asked to read your work live can be just a tough sell for some people. Some people just they're just not there yet. They're not there yet. You may feel that you're not photogenic or good on camera, or if this guy, if you're watching on Facebook, look at this face. Look at this jagged beard here. If this guy can be on camera talking a mile a minute, then so can you. But that's neither here nor there. A lot of people just really don't want to do this. You mentioned live reading to people, and they're like, "Oh, that's not me. That's just not me. I'm not there yet. That's not something I'm interested in doing. Just forget about it." Well, I have some points that I want to address. Hopefully this will convince you about why you should not only consider writing your book and publishing your book, which is the mission statement of Penn Night Radio, turn that blank page into a full page, but that you should also consider live reading your work. Here's 4 reasons why. Number 1, live reading builds confidence. I didn't want to live read either. When I was first asked to read a segment of Barker's Rules in public, I was terrified. I got a lot of great feedback on that short story in my junior year of college. Seems so long ago now. I got a lot of great feedback. They encouraged me to make it a novel. I made it a novel. I published the novel. The people that were publishing the novel absolutely loved it. They said I was a genius. Then I was asked to read it live, and I was just trembling. I was so scared. I was like, oh, as soon as more people hear this live, this is going to be where it all comes crumbling down. They're going to see the fraud behind this big elaborate setup. I'm going to sound stupid. They're going to be like, on second thought, I'm not going to buy this, or I'm going to use it as a coaster because I already bought it, because you already duped me into that, Alec. Let me tell you, I did not want to live read, but I've done it a lot since then. And now I'll live read anything. Live reading builds your confidence. When you can just do the thing, you realize that it's not something to be feared. When you can do the thing and get great feedback on it, it actually becomes kind of addictive. You actually want to go out there again and put yourself out there again and get more comments coming in from the crowd. When you can get feedback that is critical and points out to you some things that you need to fix, live reading can be very useful. Some of my collaborators that worked with me on Children of Arc, who do their own things on their own time, talk to me about how they live read out loud before they even finish writing, just to see how a scene is going. There's no cameras, there's no audience, but they live read it so they can hear the words and they can understand, how a line comes across, how it sounds spoken versus written. Harrison Ford famously said of George Lucas's scripts, you can write this stuff, but you can't say this stuff. And edits were made to make it sound a little bit more fit for TV. There's all kinds of benefits to live reading, but the biggest one is that it just builds your confidence. You become a master over your dialect and your narration, your prose. You become a master of it. You know how it sounds. You know how it should sound. You are able to just get in there and make it sound good, make it sound like something that people are going to want to buy because you live read a lot. So it builds up your confidence. It builds up your intellect. It's a good tool. Number 2, Live reading is easily accessible. It is the easiest thing in the world now to just turn on your webcam on your phone, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Patreon, on I was gonna say Vine, but Vine isn't really a thing anymore. Is it? Is Vine still going? Somebody tell me in the comment section. But just it's the easiest thing in the world to go live. So if you're live and you have a piece of content created by you, then live reading is the most user-friendly, easily accessible thing you could ever do. And if it's that easy to do, why not try it out? Why not try it out? I mean, people go live to sell their GoFundMe's, and their Kickstarters and their Indiegogo campaigns, and they read these scripts that they write that pledges why this is something worth donating to. Why not go live in that very same way and just read a sample of your work? Why not read your poem? Why not read your short story? Why not read a chapter of your book? I mean, there's literally, I'm going live right now on StreamYard. And StreamYard is directly going to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and pretty much anywhere else that markets us. So the point is, live reading is the most accessible thing in the business right now. It is something that if you're brand new to this, you've been doing it for one day, you could figure out how to do by the end of the night. So why not get out there and just see which of your followers want to hear a little bit of your work? Number 3, live reading builds your brand. Readers get to hear the author's reading voice whenever you read. When I read a book, I don't know the author's intent. The author might be very good at capturing theme and central idea and character, so I might really be able to get a sense for what the author's interpretation is. But no matter what, when you read a book, you're going to be taking your own interpretation of things. When a character is described as a hot shot with red hair and a leather jacket, you're going to decide what kind of voice and intonation that character has. In your mind, whatever your perception of that kind of person is, you're going to form that in your mind. And that's going to become the character that you know. That's why sometimes when you see film adaptations and a character is portrayed by a director and a costume designer and an actor, a lot of people write in, that's not my guy at all. That's not how you do that character, because readers interpret the characters. So when you're live reading your own work, readers get to hear your interpretation. It is so cool when the author comes out and either talks about their book or reads a segment of it, and you get to hear what their perception of the main villain is, what their perception of the protagonist is, how they think the protagonist reads this line and the antagonist reads this line. You get a whole different picture than what your picture might have been, and that's actually very marketable. People love any behind-the-scenes content that authors can give them if they like that author. So live reading builds up your brand because you get to perform your brand. That was another episode of the podcast. If you want to go back and check it out, the value of performing your brand. You got to perform your brand every now and then if you want people to know what it is. So live reading is such a great way to do that. People can hear your voice. People understand what your intent for these characters were beyond the shadow of a doubt, because they hear how you interact with them and perform them. I tell you, it can be the most fun thing in the world. And the last point I want to make is that live reading builds community. My friends who are authors, who have been longtime guests on Drop-A-Line and have long since been following my podcast. Listen, I'm still here. I don't know if this algorithm has me buried in all your feeds, but I'm telling you, Pen Night Radio has been going every week all year long. I'm addressing topics that I know are very interesting to all of you, because whenever I get together with you, you start telling me about exactly those topics. It might be that not enough of this thing is showing on TikTok. Maybe that's where everybody is. But I tell you, live reading builds community. So let's start building more community right here. Reach out to me and share your work right here on Pen Night Radio. It doesn't matter if you're published or not. If you want it live read, if you want people to know what you're all about, if that's something you're interested in, share it with me. We'll credit you. We'll say this is such and such by so-and-so, and we'll read our interpretation of it, and we'll get people talking about you and what you do. And, you can get some early fans off of that. I'm telling you, we built so much community when I used to do live readings all in one night for one, special event every 2 months with a lot of people together on one chat room. it was magic. You could just feel the magic in that room. So many different personalities from different places and different artistic sensibilities and different stories and topics that were delved into all at once. I mean, for me, that's the closest I'll ever get to Academy Awards, because it was just amazing to have so many of my colleagues together in one place. Live reading builds community. Performing builds community. So let's continue building up right here on Pen Night Radio. And that's just a little note from your guy, PK, who wants you to slay those demons and write on. And if you think for 1 second that you're alone in this, you are not. Alrighty. So I'm going to demonstrate for you what live reading is all about with a little sample of The Children of Arc, which is available on Amazon right now. So that will be our next segment. Be back in 1 minute. Welcome back. I am PK, your host, and this is my latest book, The Children of Arc, which was co-written with my wife, Carrie, and was developed over a period of 10 years with help from my dear guy, Andrew, and a little help at the end from Cameron Coates, who does all of the promotional art for the Calipar. So thank you to everybody who helped me make this dream a reality. Thank you, Carrie, for the parts of the book that you contributed to and your excellent editing. Thank you, Brielle, for your excellent editing. We are now going to live read from The Children of Arc. The Children of Arc, if you don't know, is the first volume in the long novel, The Calipar, which I'm very excited to be delivering to you over these next several years. It is an urban fantasy about a man who slays demons. The Calipar does not have chapter titles, as it is a journal written by a mysterious character. It just has dates. So let's dive right in. Thank you for listening to Pen Night Radio. Please share this live reading with everybody you know. 2136 AD. Crashing thunder roaring furiously. Monsoon winds threatening to rip him from the dirt and hurl him over the edge of the peak into the rushing rapids 3,000 feet below. His refuge beneath a massive boulder lasted for 30 minutes while he listened to the crashing of thunder. The Grand Canyon had always been home to some of the most intense lightning storms known to mankind. Now the atmosphere of Earth had changed, and the lightning with it. Beams of bright red, sharp like daggers and jagged like thorns, touched the ground and created massive sandstorms, with water from the rapids launching into the air like tidal waves. There was no quiet anymore. There was only chaos, and a presence in his shadow. The demon knight dared not look, for fear of the lightning blinding him. But he could listen. There was a second sound on the horizon. Not the crashing of thunder nor the roaring of wind, but the distant crackling of a voice. The creature was over 200 miles away from him, but that didn't stop its wings from shaking this boulder. He had only seconds to live, so he reached out and touched the presence in his shadow, tightening his grip on the thorny hilt of his sword, whose steel tongue shone pink as a rose quartz, and whose fiery embers glinted as red as blood. The knight opened his eyes just enough to spot the demon's eye, a glinting ruby melded into the bottom of the grip, staring back at him. For the knight, this ended everything. Every painful attempt at resistance, every word he spoke against it. Looking into that eye, he could see nothing else. He could feel a fire growing under his skin, and when it burned through, he made a fist and pounded his chest armor, which was painted as red as his blade. Then he rolled out from under the boulder just as the winds became jagged like invisible swords and cut through the rock, rendering an avalanche of rubble. The knight jumped down to a ledge near the top of the peak just as the wind strengthened and an entire tree trunk blew across the rapids. He stuck the blade into the rock and it held him to the earth. Through squinting eyes, he could see the beast coming. The largest animal on Earth before the crisis had begun was the Antarctic blue whale, stretching 90 feet and carrying over 100,000 pounds. The gentle whale had nothing, in size or ferocity, on the 200,000-pound beast flying towards the night now. She opened her fanged jaw wide as her golden feathered wings continued forming those bladed winds, and from within her, a bolt of lightning, just like those raging from above, began to generate within her throat. On instinct, the knight thought to throw himself down into the rapids, knowing that he could easily survive the fall, but a hissing voice cautioned him against it. The rapids, a straight line of water, would be the blast target, and he would have no place to hide. So, instead of hiding, he tried daring the beast to fly low so that he could leap onto the back of her neck, stick his steel through the gaps in her bladed armor, and pierce her massive jugular. As she fell, he'd reach down and pluck a feather as a reward. To dare the beast, he summoned energy that flowed through the blade and thus through him, and fired a golden sphere down into the rapids. It was a light as blinding as the falling streaks, and he saw the beast's eye turn downward, but she did not fly low. Instead, she craned back her wings once more, sending wide winds sweeping over the mountain peaks, the impact of which knocked the knight from his perch so that he was dangling over the edge. She flew upwards, her massive body turning day into night as the limited sunlight was veiled. And then her blast came. It struck the ledge from which he dangled, sending him plummeting towards the abyss below. September 2nd, 2145 AD. Richard woke up with his heart racing. He wiped sweat from his forehead. When he saw 3 beams of light shone through his partly risen blinds, he knew he was in his apartment, and sighed in relief. Why were his eyes stinging from dryness and his finger blistering? All he remembered was watching the stars come out. "Good morning, Ark!" yelled a familiar voice. Richard's heart sank. He again looked at the strong light coming through his window and raced out of bed. He dressed as quickly as he could and raced out of Kapul Commons, charging up Main Street like a madman. "Run, friend, run!" shouted the woman's voice from above. In a city-state that only sold cars to the rich, he could rely on nothing but the bus system. Sure enough, the line was long, and when he looked up at the banner, his heart sank even more. "September 2nd, he gasped. "I've been asleep for 2 days?" How was that possible? And how was he going to explain it to Roger Marlton? "Stupid," he muttered, as he finally got on the bus. "I'm falling apart." As the bus cruised at a snail's pace towards the baseball district, the radio calmed his nerves. A fireside chat was playing, a routine chat between Lindsay Scranton, host of Fireside Chats, and the current mayor of Ark, Alfred Merrick. Scranton was saying, "A lot of people in Phoenix, 60% to be exact, report being late on their rent, living in a friend's apartment, or struggling to afford 3 meals per day. 20% are officially homeless or jobless. My question, Mr. Mayor, is why should these people stay in Ark? Why not migrate to Los Angeles?" Scranton's voice was gentle and smooth like water, yet somehow Merrick's voice was even gentler, with an added touch of charismatic enthusiasm. "Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, Lindsay. The importance of Ark's economic success is never lost on me. My answer, to put it simply, is that Los Angeles is at minimum a 6-day walk across an extremely dangerous road. Camp Evan is hidden behind impassable border walls where intruders are offered a sentence of death. To summarize, it is my belief that Ark, while having its issues, is something all of us can be proud of." The mayor went on at some length while Scranton listened, but Richard lost focus. His own experience, an outcast experience, didn't much relate to the mayor's optimism. And besides, he had more pressing matters to think about. He looked down at his finger and saw that it was bandaged. How had that happened? Did he sleepwalk? These questions plagued him as he walked with embarrassment towards the job site. "Good morning, Ark," Luke Motor mimicked, prompting laughter from the whole crew. Richard must have searched the entire job site for a shovel. When he finally found one hidden under a pile of lumber, he got straight to work. He'd explain himself to Roger Marlton later. For now, he just wanted to keep his job. On break, Richard sat alone. Marlton finally appeared, but he was busy having an argument with someone on the phone. Richard counted his luck, took some deep breaths. "Miss me?" asked Luke Motor, tossing a stray lock of his wavy hair. Smoke rose from the cigarette between his teeth. Richard wasn't sure what to say, especially since whatever he said would be seen as provocative, so he said nothing. Then he saw a glint in Luke's eye, and the man dug within the pocket of his open jacket. Richard flinched, expecting a knife. "That's Mr. Monster Chow to you," Luke boasted, whipping out his lighter and igniting the flame. Richard just growled at him and started back towards the job site. "You really going to ignore me?" Luke said, stumbling after him. "The trail with you, dirtbag." After break, Richard shoveled dirt, swinging with more force than he should have. Even as the crew returned, Luke positioned himself right behind Richard, winking and gesturing to the other men, who cackled with laughter. Richard could hear the words they called him. He lifted the shovel high, channeling his lessons with Bry. At one point, he kicked his foot up and felt it clip someone's jaw. "Hey!" shouted Luke. Richard turned to see him holding his mouth and staggering. His hammer had fallen to the ground. "You kicked me in the face." "Sorry," Richard said. It really had been an accident, a blind impulse, but Luke wasn't hearing that. Before Richard could turn, he sensed Luke running at him, and he was tackled. Again, the men were pulling them apart, placing more emphasis on subduing Richard than Luke. This time, Richard ripped free of them all. "Don't touch me again, any of you," he bellowed at them. "What the trail are you people doing?" roared Roger Marlton. Again, the crew parted in lines. Richard coughed up dust until Roger finally reached him. "Start talking." Richard opened his mouth to say, "He attacked me," but Luke beat him to it. "He attacked me. I didn't attack him. I was doing my job." "He's not right, boss," some of the men were saying. "You should get him out of here so we can work in peace." Richard stared around at all of them. They were faces he didn't recognize, voices that condemned him. These were the people of Ark. Luke, naturally, found the whole thing so hilarious he could hardly stand up straight. "Enough!" Roger howled. The crew was silent as Roger's eyes scanned Luke Motor from head to toe. "Motor, pick yourself up." "Motor. Motor!" "Yeah, boss?" Luke asked as he stood up straight at last, his eyes fluttering. Roger stared at him in utter revulsion. "Tell me you're not high," said the older man. "Nope," Luke offered before slanting his eye. "Bit hungover, maybe, but definitely not high, boss. I could tell you the difference." He put 2 fingers to his head and saluted. The old man curled his teeth like a tiger might have. "You're done. I took a chance on you because I think everyone deserves a chance, but you're one incident away from shutting our business down. Get up and get lost." Luke looked like he'd just been slapped in the face. "You serious, old man?" "Leave," Roger asserted. The scruffy Main Streeter stood eye to eye with Roger, and Richard saw fury in both their eyes. "I'm not going anywhere, you old snowbird." He shoved Roger back. There was a hush throughout the crew, like they'd all just seen someone get hit by a car. Richard, too, was holding his breath. A light sparked in Roger's eye, and a loud clap reverberated in Richard's ears. After that, Luke lay flat on the ground, both hands grasping his own jaw. He was half chuckling and half moaning in pain. Roger stood with his fist brandished. "One more time, Motor. Leave." Richard turned from the scene with a start, and not just him. The whole crew started busying themselves as Luke stumbled off, turning only once to hurl some slander at his now former boss. In a turn of fate, Richard caught his eye as he deposited his second shovel in the wheelbarrow and returned the man's glare. When Luke finally staggered out of sight, Richard returned to his work, but he caught several hateful, warning stares. "I liked that guy," one of them said. "I'm tired of your nonsense, Giant. You just wait till later." Richard watched them all walk away with chills running up his arms. Suddenly, he was thinking of all the ways he could get across town before any of them were off work. Maybe he could ask to leave early. Maybe he could just disappear and hope Marlton didn't take it personally. All of this was going through his head when Roger tapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, come see me before the end of the day. I'll ride you home." Roger's phone rang and he walked off, putting it to his ear. Richard, meanwhile, breathed a sigh of relief. That's all for now for the Children of Ark. That was a little bit of the beginning of the book. If you enjoyed that, please do pick up the book on Amazon. It is at a competitive price on the indie market. And if you come see me in August at the Arts and Authors Extravaganza, you may pick up a copy from me in person at the Doubletree Inn in Cherry Hill. More information with the date coming soon. That is Pen Night Radio for today. I wanted to demonstrate for you and encourage live reading. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more next week because, like I said, One True Promotion has a lot coming your way. And I am very excited to get into all that we've got. So to review, live reading builds your confidence. I wouldn't have been comfortable reading those pages back in the day. Not all of it was perfect. I published the book last year. It was written over a period of the last 4 years. And this past year, since publishing it, the lessons I've learned about writing alone, word choice, proper usage of certain verbs, proper sentence structure, just the lessons that I learned this year are unparalleled to the education that I had in the previous years. And I really am so grateful for that and so blessed and so excited to share more work with you. But listen, I'm comfortable reading all of my work now, warts and all, because live reading builds that confidence to get out there and share your brand and start building community with other people. We would love to read your work for you or invite you onto the show to read your work live, because that's what Pen Night Radio is all about. It's about promoting you, the indie community, helping you overcome whatever's holding you back and turning that blank page into a full page. If the problem is confidence, if the problem is I don't know how my work sounds, if the problem is I'm just not sure if it's good, let me tell you, joining a little live reading community is the best way to deal with that problem. You'll get swift and helpful feedback. You will immediately start to notice the cracks in what you haven't learned and what you still need to learn, and you will be able to do work you never thought was possible. So I hope you will consider live reading as part of your permanent brand. Night's Pen Night Radio is dedicated to bringing you quality content. We stream every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Facebook, Pen Night Radio, the Calipar Fans, Alec Pangea, and One True Promotion. We stream on YouTube as well at One True Promotion. Clips of this podcast will be available on TikTok and Instagram. But my favorite of all is that we are on Spotify. Just type in Pen Night Radio and you will see the podcast come up. You can listen in your car. You don't have to look at this mug the whole time. You can listen in your car for a brief companion that'll help you feel encouraged when you get out of that car. So with that, Knights, can't wait to see you next week with some more information, and right on.